If you were born with North Node in Capricorn and South Node in Cancer, you have a soul of an earth mother, somebody caring, nurturing, naturally warm and kind. You give a lot of yourself to other people. Yet your North Node is calling you to develop boundaries, to become more professionally oriented, and learn to say no to people and relationships that drain you. In this video, I talk about your gifts, lessons, and karmic purpose. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you like my work, please support me by leaving a like or a comment, subscribing, and pressing that notification bell. All of that draws views to my channel, helps me grow. I appreciate that. You also have the option of saying thank you and buying me a coffee. Additionally, for all of your questions, if you want to know what the year ahead has in store for you, if you have your birthday coming up and you'd like to know what's happening right now or what's ahead, you can always book a reading with me at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also check out the shop section for all of my creations, such as candles, oils, planners, and more. So definitely give that a look. Before we talk about the North and South Node specifically, let's talk about it in a more general sense, right? What is North Node? What is South Node? North and South Node are not existing physical things. They are points of intersection between the solar and the lunar orbit. And whenever we get a new or full moon right at those intersection points, we get eclipses. So eclipses have always been they've always carried this major emphasis and influence in astrology. So North and South Node, because they connect to eclipses, they also carry that huge weight in astrology. And so there's a couple of ways of looking at the North and South Node. I like to cover them both to give you perspective, but in general, I think I really like looking at the North and South Node as the rise and the fall of karma. They're very karmic. They connect to your past lives. They represent lessons you're learning. They represent energies you're carrying over from other lifetimes, and they're here to tell you how to find a better balance. So modern astrologers oftentimes tend to put the South Node down, and they tend to lift up the North Node, and a lot of times you might hear that South Node is something you're letting go, it's you're mastering and releasing it, versus North Node is these like blessings and your complete focus in life, right? Which is not entirely true, because, or at least that's not what traditional astrologers used to believe, right? The traditional astrologers saw South Node as the release. It's the energy of spiritual focus, right? Like South Node, even if you look at those two intersections, right, between the solar orbit and the lunar orbit, the North Node represents the point of intersection as the moon is climbing up, versus the South Node is the moon going down. So North Node, according to that energy of climbing up, has the pull towards material gains. North Node is curious, it's hungry, it's the rise of fortune, right? It's the rise, or like the strong pull. It has very material focus. It has very hungry energy. Lance Armstrong, the famous cyclist, has his Mars conjunct North Node, and so Mars, being the competitive warrior within him, conjunct the North Node, made that warrior that much hungrier. So he was willing to break rules and to go really far to win. So North Node is not just good, right? Because it can take you in the wrong direction. So looking at it as like South Node bad, North Node good is not conducive to I think a balanced understanding. And I'm a Libra rising, so I'm all about balance. And South Node, because it's spiritual and it has to do with release, is also not all good, because if you're fully releasing responsibility, you can hurt people around you, right? You can step away too much, you can sort of escape. It's good to escape in meditation, I guess, but you can escape into drugs because you're so not focused or so not connected to the material realm, to your physical body. So that's where their relationship, I think, is easiest to understand, because it's not one good, one bad. It's about how do we balance that spiritual energy with the material energy. So what does it mean to have your North Node in Capricorn and South Node in Cancer? The two will always be opposite one another. So if your North Node is at 4 degrees Capricorn, so will be your South Node, but 4 degrees Cancer. And early in life, we tend to lean quite heavily into our South Node. It's more familiar, it's easy, and we just slide into familiar patterns. As you get older and you cross over that 40 boundary, North Node matures officially at 42, you start to become more comfortable with your North Node and more likely to find good balance in your life. So you have this placement if you were born between October 10th, 1953, April 2nd, 1955, April 28th, 1972, and October 27th, 1973, November 19th, 1990, and August 1st, 1992, and more recently, August 22nd, 2009, and March 3rd, 2011. You also share this node with Steve Jobs, Denzel Washington, Angela Merkel, Kevin Costner, and Oprah Winfrey. It's always fun to know who else has this placement, right? Who else, especially with Oprah, that like goddess loving energy, I think, shines so strongly through her. So North Node in Capricorn, South Node in Cancer. South Node oftentimes represents your past lifetimes or your early life, something you have found yourself doing a lot and sort of your early conditioning. So with Cancer South Node, you are very warm. You're very emotionally nurturing. I really think it always helps to think of like Cancer Capricorn as mother and father in a happy, secure household, right? Like Cancer South Node, you have that, you are a mother, right? You may find yourself mothering people all the time. Maybe you talk nicely to strangers. Maybe you have pets that you take care of. Maybe you're a parent, right? You find yourself oftentimes taking care of other people. And maybe early in life, you had to be this person, right? Like maybe early in life, you grew up in a household where parents weren't doing it and you had to step up. You had to take care of your family, or you know, you may also find yourself sort of entangled with family dynamics a bit more than other people. But yeah, like be that based on early conditioning or past lifetimes, you're just predetermined or you're determined to help people. But as you get older, or as you see yourself fall into these familiar patterns of giving of yourself and taking care of other people, you will start to feel like nobody is quite as giving as you are, unless of course you have other Cancers in your life, but that might also feel like too over dependent, codependent, and not satisfying. But you may start to feel like you are giving and people take advantage of you. Of course, there will always be people who are as generous as you are and as loving and as caring, but there is also likely to be a few that will enjoy the fact that you're so caring and nurturing and not reciprocate. And that's where a lot of those Capricorn North Node lessons come in, right? One of the biggest ones is learning to have boundaries, learning to say no, and be Capricorn, who is the father in the story, somebody who works or, you know, has this kind of rational, grounded mentality, somebody who would say no because they have a deadline or because you need to take care of yourself, right? Like you're not going to become this just like stern and harsh person, but your North Node really encourages you to say no to people that are not worthy, to say not yet. You're learning to embrace Saturn more in your life, right? And we're talking about constructive Saturn, somebody who is a leader, an authority, someone who's professionally oriented, like a question of legacy. I think, becomes very strong for you. What is your legacy? What do you want to leave behind, right? You know that you can care of other people. You know that you can become a parent, but in this lifetime, you might not want to be. Maybe in this lifetime, you're meant to go out there and develop a career. And it's funny when this happens that once in a while, you know, if you're like a Libra rising and you're North Node in Capricorn, it will be in the house of home and family. So maybe you're meant to develop boundaries and become the authority in the family. But for the most part, there's going to be that desire for achievement, whatever area of life it plays out in. So learning to build structures, learning to have stronger boundaries, learning to be resilient and persevering. And you can definitely with this placement become like a strong leader and someone who actually understands the value of sharing and understands the value of emotional maturity, emotional awareness, just as much as the hardworking energy. So career, becoming an authority, becoming a figure in power. Once again, we're moving away from like a stay-at-home mom archetype to ambitious head of the network type dad. So you may enjoy more reaching professional accomplishment. Keep in mind that Saturn is in charge here and North Node develops later in life, so it might take you a while to get there. I have a cousin who has this placement, and she spent her teens and 20s basically in school, because I think there was a lot of emphasis on doing what other people want. And also she spent the same time living with her mom, so the mother was like kind of in charge, so there's definitely a close attachment to the mother. You will, you know, like that's another thing too, looking at your past, right? Like with Cancer South Node, looking at how past has influenced you and turning on that stern energy or that rational energy of Saturn and being like, this does not define me. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to accomplish things. So I'm not in touch with my cousin anymore. There was a lot of, you know, drama at some point in 2020 in my life. So I don't quite know what's happening in her life currently. She's still really young. She's only 31. But definitely that Cancer South Node energy showed up strongly. You may, you know, some other things, you may gravitate yourself, or like you may find yourself connecting with other Cancers and dating people who are emotionally needy, because that makes you feel secure, because you're taking care of them and you feel needed, right? But once again, it's like, it's about learning to rely on yourself. It's about learning to evolve from that needy, insecure, trying to satisfy, lonely energy. So a lot of work you have to do, I think, right? Relationships can be big lessons where you definitely, like through relationships, you will learn to say no. You will learn to love yourself. You will learn to have stronger rules where you're not just putting your needs second, where you're starting to put your needs first. And through doing that, relationships will improve. Observe Capricorns in your life. See how productive they are, how once they set their mind on something, you can't push them off track, you know, how good they are at hard work, at delegating, at, you know, getting stuff done, and perhaps bring some of that, bring more boundaries, bring more structure in your life, even if that means having structure around self-care, right? Working out at the same time, waking up at the same time, going to sleep, getting enough sleep, and make sure that you're not just, of course, focusing on boundaries. Make sure that you're also secure within yourself and you have a career or a job that satisfies you and feeds your heart. And if you feel like you've been too disciplined and you've been accomplishing things too much, make sure to also feed your Cancer South Node by taking your dogs out for a walk, by planting and working in the garden, by cooking a nice meal for yourself or for people you love. Don't remember, it's about balance, right? So don't forget to take care of the softer emotional side of yourself. Just make sure you're not letting anyone abuse it. And this is all I have. Please share your thoughts. Please share how this video resonated with you down below, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.